If you guys remember, there was a rumor that Jacen Syndulla, the child of Hera Syndulla and the late Kanan Jarrus, was gonna appear in the Ahsoka show. This was after a Lego leak. Well, it turns out Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Hera in live action, might have just admitted to it. When asked about the differences between the Rebels depiction and the one we're gonna see in Ahsoka, she said the following: "I see Hera as an incredibly strong but complicated person. She is very maternal, but also the leader of this crew. Now, Jacen aside, we know that she's everyone's space mum. That is an attribute that a lot of Star Wars fans assign to her, but she says in the Ahsoka show, she's even more maternal than before. Is this Mary Elizabeth Winstead kind of admitting, in a very subtle way, that she is literally going to be a mother in this show, that we are going to see Jacen? We saw him at the end of Star Wars Rebels in the epilogue, the newest member of the Ghost crew, and it seems as though he is going to make an appearance. Some very exciting stuff indeed." She goes on to say, "She's also very soft and warm. Time has made her that way, and people come to her for advice and solace and comfort, so not too much has changed in that regard, but she is literally a mother now." And so now, my dear friends, on to Mando. The Mandalorian Season 3 finale Nielsen numbers are in, and there are two ways of looking at this. On the one hand, there is an increase since the beginning of the season with Chapter 17, but on the other, and not too surprising, it didn't reach the numbers of Season 2's finale, which of course had Luke Skywalker, and it even fell short of Chapter 15, the penultimate episode of Season 2, the one with Bill Burr, one of the best episodes of the entire show, but still decent numbers. Now, we've spoken in depth about the many reasons Season 3 just didn't live up to Season 2's hype. Now, a few things to note. The numbers here are minutes watched, and this is pretty decent considering the last episode was rather short. It also measures minutes for the entire series, not just for Season 3, so the week it's looking at is not just the finale, although it's predominantly going to be from that, but also those fans who went back and watched other episodes of Mando. So I suppose you can say for the week of the finale the numbers did not too bad, not the best, but they could have been worse. Now, if we're looking at this from a strict numbers point of view, comparing season to season, you might expect Season 3 to do better than the first two, but it really didn't. So according to the Nielsen Top 10, this is how things pan out. Let's start with The Mandalorian Season 2. That's the yellow line, and Season 3 is just below it, the orange line. They both had decent starts, although Season 2 had much greater anticipation, and therefore for week 1, it's got more minutes watched. The two lines intertwine at some points, with Season 3 doing better than 2 for some weeks, but right at the end, as you can see, Season 2 did much better in the finale. Now, as I said, the Book of Boba Fett did have 36% higher viewership than Season 2, but that's not for this kind of metric. This is minutes viewed. Boba Fett is overall a bit lower, so when it comes to individual households in the US, metrics measured by Samba TV, the Book of Boba Fett clocked in 1.5 million US households, with Mando Season 2 pulling in 1.1 million. And according to this metric, Season 3 actually does beat Season 2, with 1.4 million viewers tuning into the last episode of Mando Season 3. So different graphs measuring different things are gonna give you varying results, but according to Nielsen ratings, Season 3 did not get as many minutes watched as Season 2, whereas Samba TV puts Mando Season 3 above Season 2. As I say, things didn't work out too badly. Many fans love Mando Season 3, and it's going to be very interesting when we get our next installment of the Mandoverse, the Ahsoka show in August, and to see how that compares when the numbers come in. Here's a prediction. I think the most niche show in the Mandoverse, the one that's probably going to suffer the least amount of views in terms of Mandoverse shows, is Skeleton Crew. That's coming in November or December. Despite marketing, which we don't know when that's going to begin, I just can't imagine this having as much hype as The Mandalorian, the Ahsoka show, or Book of Boba Fett. And even when YouTubers such as myself put out videos about Skeleton Crew, they don't seem to garner as much interest as The Mandalorian. They haven't given fans a reason to care about it just yet, aside from those who attended Star Wars Celebration, but as I say, that's still to come. The next live action show is Ahsoka, and they're not going to market Skeleton Crew till that's done. And looking at the overall numbers when it comes to The Mandalorian, aside from the finales, I think it's really awesome that Chapter 15 in particular did so well. That episode is one of the best of the entire series. It explored themes of identity, sacrifice, and blurred the lines between what's good and evil. Din Djarin got so much character development, which I think's been undermined by a lot of Season 3, and Bill Burr's Mayfeld was brilliant in terms of giving us an Imperial who defected, and the more human side of consequences, working for such a dictatorial regime. Bill Burr's performance as Migs Mayfeld brought complexity and depth to the episode. The chemistry and dynamic with Din was particularly notable. The moral dilemmas explored in such a show worked so well in terms of what the episode was trying to accomplish. In my opinion, Bill Burr's speech was the highlight, but Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin was also phenomenal. They showcased his growth and internal conflict, going against his creed to help Grogu, his son. And through the conversation between Mayfeld and Din, we see Din questioning his own belief system, his values, and this led us to a significant character transformation, one which in many ways was undone by Season 3. Din's willingness to repent and go back to his cult, that seemed like a bit of a reversal for me. But what I'm saying is that episode of The Mandalorian was phenomenal, and I'm so glad to see it do so well. In other Star Wars news, something that's gone under the radar is that 2 musical tracks have been made public by Michael A. Levine, the composer, for Star Wars Detours. This was going to be a Star Wars animated comedy series that was fully produced by George Lucas, but was never released under Disney. The crazy thing is though, all the episodes were fully produced, all 39 of them, but Disney never decided to release it. To this day, I really hope they do. I love Seth Green, who worked on the show, as well as D. Bradley Baker, Anthony Daniels. We even have Ahmed Best voicing Jar Jar Binks. This is a very different kind of Star Wars show. It's a bit like Robot Chicken. It takes the piss out of itself. It's Star Wars not taking itself too seriously, and honestly, it looks pretty hilarious. There are some clips available on YouTube, but they never released it. I really hope Disney does this. Just release it on Disney+. There are tons of Star Wars fans who've been waiting for it for 10 years. Even though this was a comedy series that really didn't amount to much in terms of canon content, it was going to be set between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope. In March of 2013, Lucasfilm postponed the release of the series after reconsidering whether a comedy series is the best way to reintroduce the franchise to new fans. And you know what, back in 2013, you can understand why they thought this. They didn't want fans to get the wrong impression of what Disney Star Wars was going to do with the franchise. Ironically, they didn't want the backlash. Now fast forward to 2015, in October, so 2 months before The Force Awakens, Disney announced it was cancelled. But in June of 2018, fans had a lot of hope, because Lucasfilm filed a new trademark for the series, Star Wars Detours. Seth Green in June of 2021, which I did cover at the time, said he doesn't think the show's going to happen anytime soon, and he cast doubt if it's ever going to see the light of day. A year later, in March of 2022, Weird Al Yankovic, who was also involved in the show, revealed he wrote and recorded a few original songs for the series. There were big plans for this, but it never came to fruition. I guess it's just a wait and see sort of thing at this stage. And so finally, my dear friends, an update for Skeleton Crew from SFX magazine. Earlier in the week I covered their article about the Ahsoka show, which was called The Force Reawakens, but they also have a section on Skeleton Crew. Now a lot of this is stuff we already know. They talk about Jude Law, the Amblin feel, the Goonies influence, but something they double down on is the influence of Stranger Things. For a long time this is how the show was marketed, but ever since we were told about the Amblin stuff, the Goonies vibe, outlets sort of backed away. But Jon Watts implies this is Star Wars' answer to Stranger Things. They want to have that more mysterious, darker vibe, and that was the feeling a lot of fans got from Star Wars Celebration after the exclusive trailer was shown. And a small tidbit they mention about the plot: aside from the 4 kids being lost in space, they make a mysterious discovery on their own planet, and MakingStarWars.net did mention they're all part of an orphanage on this one world, and on that planet there is something dark going on in the shadows. What could this be? The mystery leads them down a rabbit hole. I really do think the coming of age theme could be really popular in Star Wars in a streaming show. Stranger Things is without a doubt a massive phenomenon, but with Skeleton Crew I just can't see them going into the horror genre, although I'd love for them to do this, but I don't think that's what's in store. But with that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always.